Miss Super Test the Third, 6,000 pounds of her, the world's fastest and most powerful hydroplane. But you handle her like a fine tool, every polished inch of uncounted value. Today, she undertakes her first defense of the Harmsworth, the British International Trophy, emblematic of world leadership in the unlimited powerboat class. And her driver, Bob Hayward, a former drag strip racer, a one-time mechanic in earlier Miss Super Test pit crews. One day, as Jim Thompson returned from a test run, Hayward said, "I'd like to drive her." He did. Now he's making a test run before the first race of the 1960 Harmsworth, under the watchful eyes of the man who developed and designed Canada's Defender, James G. Thompson. Man and boat have a lot to answer for this day on the superb 5-mile course of the Long Reach in the sheltered Bay of Quinte. The year before, driving the new Miss Super Test III, Hayward took it to victory to bring Canada her first Harmsworth, cracking a 39-year American stranglehold on the Classic. And here in the foreground is Gale 5, considered by many Miss Super Test's most dangerous challenger. Watching are the gathering crowds, out early to size up the competitors. And here's Miss Super Test coming in now from a final test run with Jim Thompson himself at the wheel. His verdict, ready. In the pits, tension increases as last-minute preparations are carried out by skilled technicians. Check and double check is the order of the day as the work goes on for Miss Super Test and her challengers. Competition may end at the finish line, but it starts right here with the Super Test crew of top mechanics, days and even months before, tuning, adjusting the massive 2,000 horsepower Rolls-Royce Griffin engine that powered many of the famed Spitfire aircraft in the Battle of Britain. And so the scene is set for a festive occasion. To 20,000 people gather from everywhere, enthusiasts and celebrities here for a great race. The Prime Minister of Canada, the Right Honourable John Diefenbaker, greeted by H.J. McFarland, Mayor of the town of Picton. Many important visitors take their places in the special viewing stand. Premier of Ontario, the Honourable Leslie Frost, greeting a friend, and Toronto's Mayor Nathan Phillips. But almost unnoticed in the center, Gar Wood, the once unbeatable United States Harmsworth champion. But now the symbolic ribbons are prepared and the crowd awaits the cutting that will declare the race on. And there it is. For the first race of the 1960 Harmsworth Trophy races, the cameramen ready, the press, the timers, official observers, and course stewards making a final check. Today, Canada defends her proud crown against 3 of the best, led by the redoubtable Gale 5 from the United States and her gallant sister ships. This is Nitrogen, owned by Samuel DuPont of Wilmington, driven by Norman Evans, smallest and lightest of the craft. Gale 5, to be driven by Wild Bill Cantrell, goes into the water. The Defender, Miss Super Test III, built in 5 months before her first Harmsworth victory. Today, she faces her most fateful test. Nitrogen with her smooth tail fin, brown and yellow striped. Miss Super Test, clean white fin, edged in orange. And the third American challenger, Nitrogen 2, with colorful blue and yellow striped fin. Only a few minutes remaining till race time, and driver Norman Evans in Nitrogen, also owned by Sam DuPont, pulls his craft into the bay. And they're all on the course now, slowly accelerating and warming up before the first race. Miss Supertest and her challengers, Gale 5, Nitrogen, and Nitrogen 2. The power of Miss Supertest against the numbers of her challengers. The red flag is up. 1 minute to go. Now the 10 seconds tick off. Miss Supertest, Gale, Nitrogen, and Nitrogen 2 head toward the starting line. Nearly 7,000 horsepower churning the water. It looks as though it'll be a fair start. They're off. In the straightaway, Miss Supertest and Gale are neck and neck. Nitrogen 2 in third place. Into the south turn on the first of 9 separate 5-mile laps, Bob Hayward in Miss Supertest takes the lead. Miss Supertest, accelerating up to 160 miles an hour, throws a magnificent rooster tail 35 feet in the air, barreling down the backstretch and increasing her lead. Hayward, taking no chances this early in the game, is determined to hold his lead. Along the backstretch, the American hydroplanes are hot in pursuit of the leader, Miss Supertest III. Hayward throttles back as he goes into the north turn. Gale second, Nitrogen 2 third, and Nitrogen fourth. Miss Supertest, watched by Garwood. In the straightaway of lap 2, Miss Supertest holds her lead. Gale still second. Nitrogen 2 in third place. Trailing in fourth, Nitrogen. In the backstretch, still it's Hayward and Miss Supertest, not yet taxing his incredible reserve power. The American boat's hot in pursuit. The crowd moves closer now, sensing that the heart of the battle is right here before their eyes, as Hayward takes Miss Supertest into the north turn again. Still in the lead into the next lap, but anything can happen, and luck is every bit as important as horsepower. Gale 5 is still in second, but closing the gap slightly. There's the green flag for the start of the last lap as Miss Supertest barrels ahead. With untapped power to spare in her Rolls-Royce Griffin engine, the Canadian boat speeds into the south turn, fully half a lap ahead of the nearest American craft. Word is received that Miss Supertest has clocked the fastest lap average in Harmsworth history, 124 miles an hour in lap 1 of today's race. That was Gale, wide open. Norman Evans in Nitrogen in third place, driving into the south turn. Across the course, the leaders carve sharp cuts through the surface, throwing spray high behind them in their final drive. All eyes are on Miss Supertest in the back stretch of the final lap. Gale in second place, followed closely by Nitrogen 2 in third. Nitrogen still in fourth place as all boats head toward the last turn. Miss Supertest corners beautifully in the last turn before the finish line. Gale 5 with Wild Bill Cantrell holding second place and taking the last turn. And Nitrogen 2 still fighting hard. The checkered flag is up. Miss Supertest wins. But it's not over. The second race is still to come, and tomorrow is another day. Saturday morning, the overnight drizzle clears. The American craft prepare for a new struggle. Gale 5 is the key to the Challenger's hopes. Her tanks are checked and superchargers adjusted in a race against time to coax extra power from her 1,700 horsepower Allison. Lee Shennett, heading the Gale team, checks his watch, and already the crowds are arriving, wondering if she'll find that last extra ounce of speed for the coming race. And Nitrogen. Sam DuPont's team, complete with machine shop trailer and spare engines, prepare the hull with minute care. The crowds increase as 25,000 spectators line the long-reach shores. So they ready Nitrogen, fueling her tanks. Propeller and shaft trouble dogged her yesterday, but now they fit one loaned generously from Miss Supertest's supply. And despite yesterday's trouble, Nitrogen outsped Gale in one lap. But if Bob Hayward is worried, he doesn't show it. A tough race lies ahead. Miss Supertest and Gale wait side by side. Nitrogen and Nitrogen 2 move out from the pits. Jim Thompson's Miss Supertest gets away. But Gale 5 is in trouble. Cantrell can't get her going. His engine has seized. So for the Americans, the dark skies symbolize incredible bad luck. And disqualified by engine failure, Cantrell looks on helplessly. The 1 minute gun. The remaining entries head for the starting line. Nitrogen, Nitrogen 2, and Miss Supertest. But Nitrogen and Nitrogen 2 are squeezing out Miss Supertest, forcing Hayward to drop back to avoid the rooster tails that could drown his engine. Nitrogen 2 and Nitrogen roar across the starting line, 200 yards in the lead. Now here comes Miss Supertest, almost flat out as she closes the gap. It's Nitrogen 2 in the lead. With Nitrogen nearly beside her, both well ahead, into the south turn in the second race of the 1960 Harmsworth. And there's Jim Thompson's Miss Supertest III, into the south turn in third place. And down the backstretch, it's Nitrogen 2 in the lead, Nitrogen second. Miss Supertest in third and closing fast. And now, coming into the north turn in the first lap, Nitrogen 2 is still in the lead. Ron Musson knows he's being pressed. Throttles back, but not enough. Swings wide, but pulls round, still ahead. But watch the turn. Nitrogen swings wide too, but Miss Supertest, with a combination of skillful driving and brilliant design, cuts sharply in toward the boys and passes Nitrogen to race out of the north turn at the end of the first lap in second place. Nitrogen 2 leading. In second place, Miss Supertest. Nitrogen third. And there they go into the south turn of the second lap. Nitrogen 2. Miss Supertest. Nitrogen. One time clock is broken down and we have no time on the leader, Nitrogen 2, but it looks as if Miss Supertest may be setting a new lap record as she races to catch Nitrogen 2. Now on the backstretch, Hayward shoves the throttle to the floor. Excitement rises as he pulls even with the leader. And there in the backstretch, Miss Supertest takes over the lead from Nitrogen 2. Still gaining in the backstretch, Miss Supertest planes magnificently over the water, only a square foot and a half of her 6,000-pound hull skimming the surface. And now she heads into the north turn, describing her perfect mastery in a tight arc over the choppy surface. Here she comes, Miss Supertest, swinging around, again cutting close to the boys, followed hard by Nitrogen 2 in second place. Nitrogen still hanging on in third. The news is out. In lap 2, Miss Supertest breaks all unlimited class records with a lap average of over 126 miles an hour. And there she is, barreling past the crowds, a spine-tingling sight. Nitrogen, still game, is the only other craft in the race now. Her running mate lost her supercharger on the third lap. In the backstretch, flying her rooster tail behind her, Miss Supertest is headed for victory. She streaks towards the finish line. The race is over. In exultation, Hayward cuts round in a tight circle and heads back down the middle of the course toward the judges' stand. There in the backstretch, Nitrogen is finishing her last lap. For the crowd, the excitement may be over, but Miss Supertest is still frisky. She zips in close. The press gallery gets a playful soaking. Well, she's done it. She's won and retained for Canada the trophy she first took at Detroit in her first international competition the year before. 2 competitions, 2 victories. And Bob Hayward himself, sometime drag racer, former mechanic on Supertest II, and now twice winner of the Harmsworth. Welcomed as he ties up and comes ashore by the Gale crew, who always cheer a good winner, and today that man is Bob Hayward. But watch now for a quiet man in a dark green raincoat with a hand on Hayward's shoulder. It's Jim Thompson, head of the Supertest company, who 8 years before vowed he'd bring the Harmsworth trophy to Canada. And today, he has won for the 2nd year in a row. A great welcome for driver Hayward, who receives the congratulations of well-wishers not only for himself, but for all members of the great crew that made victory possible. This is what it's all about. The British International Trophy, donated by Alfred Harmsworth in 1903. Today retained by Canada. Here with Mayor McFarland are the men behind this nationally acclaimed victory. Jim Thompson, Bob Hayward, and Colonel J.G. Thompson. Miss Supertest's victory is honored everywhere, and across Canada there is, naturally enough, a special acclaim. Here with a parade up Toronto's Bay Street to the City Hall steps. For Jim Thompson and Bob Hayward, the crowd is warm in appreciation, and they love that Miss Supertest. At the cenotaph, Toronto Mayor Nathan Phillips congratulates Bob Hayward and Jim Thompson on behalf of the City of Toronto. And this meets with the approval of just about everyone present. At the conclusion of the magnificently exciting Harmsworth Trophy race of 1960.